A car accident led the man to find the secret to wealth. Initially, he just wanted to be a quiet bystander, but suddenly two people appeared behind him and rushed into the accident scene, snapping photos vigorously. At first, Bloom thought they were just journalists, but he quickly dismissed that idea. In his understanding, journalists are also workers and wouldn't act so recklessly. This piqued Bloom's curiosity about this line of work. After inquiring, he learned that the man wasn't affiliated with any news media. He worked independently. They sold their footage to major TV stations for morning news, and if the footage contained blood, the price was even higher. In just 1 year, the man made several $1,000,000. At this point, Bloom thought the man was boasting until he saw the accident footage on TV in the morning. This meant the TV station had bought the footage. So Bloom got the idea to join the industry. With no startup capital, he set his sights on a passerby's branded bicycle. As soon as the owner left, Bloom pounced, beginning his action. To sell his labor results at a good price, Bloom was particularly enthusiastic when promoting the bicycle to a second-hand dealer. In the end, he traded the bike for a camera and a police scanner. The problem was that Bloom couldn't understand what each code represented, so he could only react to vague information. Unfortunately, the first 3 cases were just neighbor disputes or minor DUI incidents, which had little value. Not only did Bloom not make any money that night, but he also lost hundreds on postage. Just the postage alone cost him several $100s. Fortunately, hard work paid off, as the 4th case was a robbery involving a firearm. Bloom was so excited that he almost broke the small screen on his camera. However, he seemed to be a step too late. His competitors had arrived at the scene 10 minutes earlier, and their equipment was bigger and more advanced, leaving Bloom at a disadvantage. Since his equipment was inferior, Bloom quietly bypassed the police and pointed his camera directly at the victim's face. This close-up shot quickly drew the police's disapproval, as Bloom's selfishness also affected a bystander with a big beard. Faced with criticism from his peers, Bloom kept quiet on the surface, but listened carefully to the details of their dealings with the TV station. Afterwards, he eagerly went to the TV station to monetize his footage. However, Nina said that they already had the footage, but Bloom argued that his footage was closer to the truth about the victim. As Bloom claimed, his footage was more graphic and compelling, prompting Nina to ask how much Bloom wanted for it. Bloom initially asked for $1,000, but Nina, not being foolish, knew the footage wasn't worth that much due to its poor quality. Ultimately, Bloom only received $300. Nina also gave him some advice, telling Bloom that in today's world, capturing people's attention means filming explosive scenes, like car accidents or gang fights, and interviewing witnesses if possible. The next morning at 6, Bloom sat in front of the TV early and saw his footage in the news, which motivated him even more. Over the next few days, he immersed himself in learning editing, uploading the edited videos to the cloud, and naming each piece of footage appropriately. He also researched police codes online, memorizing which numbers corresponded to which neighborhoods and types of cases. Afterward, Bloom hired a college student named Rick as an assistant for $30 a night. Unexpectedly, during their first collaboration, they encountered an accident. Rick made a mistake with the navigation, causing Bloom to miss 2 streets. By the time they arrived at the scene, the fire had already been extinguished, leading to mockery from other competitors. After reprimanding Rick, they continued on their way. This time, they encountered a shooting incident. Bloom recalled Jin's advice, first interviewing a random witness, then sneaking into a room while the police were taking statements. To sell the footage for a high price, he even placed the victim's photo near the bullet holes, replicating the scene of a white family's tragedy as accurately as possible. Indeed, this footage received praise from the TV station as soon as it arrived. Bloom felt unprecedented satisfaction, earning a high reward for this piece and establishing a long-term collaboration with Jin's TV station. Bloom seemed naturally suited for this job. His keen instincts and sharp shooting angles allowed him to deliver footage to the TV station before his competitors. In just a few months, Bloom amassed a fortune. With the money, he bought a new sports car and upgraded his equipment. He understood that success in this field depended on speed. This time, Bloom focused on a traffic accident. He showed no limits, aggressively approaching the driver, who was calling the police and insulting him. He then set his sights on the crime scene, where he had completely turned to dark methods. If the angle was not good, he would drag the bodies around to find a highlight, shooting until he got the most shocking footage. By the time the police and other competitors arrived, Bloom's efforts had earned him not only a large paycheck, but also a special recognition from the industry. As Bloom's reputation in the nightcrawler circle grew, a prominent industry figure, Joe, soon extended an olive branch to him. Joe hoped Bloom would join his team, believing that together they could dominate the industry. However, Bloom felt he was capable of leading on his own, and was not interested in being Joe's subordinate. Bloom seemed to overlook that Joe, having been in the business for 14 years, undoubtedly had his own strengths. That evening, a radio report announced a plane crash. Bloom couldn't pass up such an opportunity and quickly sped away. By the time Bloom arrived at the scene, it was already cordoned off by the police, which meant he lost the chance for close-up shots. Joe had managed to complete his shooting before the police arrived and mocked Bloom for being late. Because of missing out on this prime news, Gene from the TV station was furious with Bloom. When Bloom got home, he lost control and suddenly had murderous thoughts. Nightcrawlers in the US are a high-paying but dirty profession where speed and adrenaline are crucial. They are more dedicated than reporters, always showing up at crime and accident scenes, focusing on bloody footage, and selling it to TV stations for a high price. Bloom achieved financial freedom in just 3 months in this field. However, during the plane crash incident, he was blocked by the police at the cordon line for being a few minutes late and missed out on a major news story. Joe, witnessing this, couldn't help but mock him. Bloom's anger turned into a dark resolve. The next morning, he began his plan, claiming Joe was still asleep and tampering with his car. Later that night, Bloom drove around the area, convinced that Joe would have an accident, and he was right. Soon, the police reported a traffic accident. When Bloom arrived, the area was surrounded by police, creating a dramatic scene. It was confirmed that the injured person was Joe. Bloom, disregarding the situation, grabbed his equipment and started working. This accident left Joe disabled, effectively removing a competitor. After handling this matter, Bloom and Rick continued their work. Not long after, the radio reported a home invasion. Coincidentally, Bloom and Rick were nearby, so they quickly turned their car around and headed towards the scene. At the villa, the robbers were about to leave, which startled Bloom. He hurriedly hid in the bushes, using his zoom lens to capture clear shots of the robbers. He then took close-ups of the crime scene, filming both the exterior and interior of the house. Bloom was determined to capture every detail. After filming, he pointed the camera at the baby's crib. Once he had the footage, he left feeling satisfied. During this period, Bloom didn't rush to deliver the footage to the TV station. Instead, he used editing software to separately save the clips showing the robbers' faces. He then handed over the remaining footage to the TV stations. Although the video didn't provide any information about the robbers, the scenes were dramatic enough. Bloom, however, set a high price of $50,000. He was willing to negotiate, but on the condition that the TV station would credit him prominently and introduce him to high-level executives, as Bloom had other cards up his sleeve. He planned to continue tracking the case, knowing that the robbers' escape would cause public panic and drive high viewership. Nina, impressed by Bloom's ambition, honored her promise by introducing him to the TV station's higher-ups. This solidified Bloom's standing in the industry. As expected, the sensational news created a stir. The TV station even pixelated the victims' faces, so the police didn't pursue the matter further. Bloom had cut out the robbers' segment deliberately. Back at home, he tracked down the robbers' license plate and, through online searches, identified their personal information. That night, he and his assistant secretly located the suspect's vehicle. During a conversation, Rick demanded a share of the $50,000 reward, threatening to report Bloom if he didn't receive a portion. Although Bloom pretended to agree, he was already planning something sinister. When the robbers went out, Bloom and Rick followed discreetly. Seeing them enter a restaurant, Bloom knew the opportunity had come. He called the police, instructed Rick to set up the camera, and began filming from the car. Soon, 2 police teams arrived in response to the report and engaged in a fierce shootout. During the confrontation, one robber was killed by the police, but the other escaped. The duo of Bloom and Rick, not daring to miss the action, followed the scene. An accident involving a police car and the fleeing robber led to a crash. Bloom moved in to get a close-up of the robber, only to find he was still alive. He instructed Rick to get out and film. Rick, unaware of the trap, set up the camera and was caught off guard by Bloom, who revealed his weapon. Rick was shot and fell to the ground, becoming part of Bloom's footage. Undoubtedly, Bloom's footage became front-page news again, bringing him not just fame and fortune, but also a sense of superiority. Despite his turbulent emotions, Bloom voluntarily went to the police station to explain the events. He downplayed the situation, claiming the police shootout was an accident and that he and his assistant were merely in the vicinity. The investigating officers suspected Bloom of staging the news, but lacked evidence to prove it, so they had to let him go. Bloom could have lived a normal life, but he chose to continue working in the shadows, indicating he would persist in his dangerous profession. A year later, Bloom had his own company with 4 employees. He used his earnings to buy 2 high-end vehicles and advanced equipment. Bloom had become the dominant figure in the city, capturing every significant case, and firmly established himself as the top player in his field.